this video, we're going to talk about what teachers should know about the K through 12 public school 403B and why it's generally a minefield. Now, it's not all bad, but it's mostly bad. You do have to understand that a 403B is not the same across different providers. Most school districts have multiple providers that are these companies that offer 403B products. Now, you could end up in a very, very different place in retirement depending on the type of provider you use. Most people would ask, does it really matter what 403B provider that I use? I would say yes, it absolutely matters because there are different products that are offered by different companies. Now, we'll talk about these products in a minute, but first we have to talk about why the 403B is how it is. Now, one reason is because legislation called ERISA that covers for-profit companies does not cover public schools. What this legislation requires is for the employer to act as a fiduciary regarding retirement plans. And so public schools are not covered by ERISA, and so there's very little vetting and responsibility for these plans to be low cost, good performance. So that's why I call it a minefield, is really almost anything is allowed. And one thing I should remind you is a 403B is not required. You don't have to use this to fund retirement. There's other options like IRAs and Roth IRAs, 457 accounts. 403B is always one of two things. It's either an annuity or it's a mutual fund, sometimes called a custodial account. Now, annuity, a traditional definition would be just a guaranteed series of payments. You can think of your pension like an annuity. But the 403B, you can invest in an annuity. A variable annuity, a fixed annuity, an index annuity are different types. Now, some of the common characteristics of an annuity, they have mortality and expense. That's like a fancy way of saying insurance fees. They have 12B1 fees. They have the individual expense ratios for what you're investing in. And then annuities typically have a surrender charge and a surrender period, meaning a period of time that you can't take that money and move it to another provider. So it tends to be very inflexible. Now, annuities are the most common investment vehicle in the K through 12 403B. We'll talk about why that maybe is in a minute. Okay, so a mutual fund is the other option, sometimes called a custodial account. A mutual fund is just a collection of stocks for an investment objective. There's different share classes of mutual funds. That's where some of the nuance and confusion comes in with that. Some common fees that you see in these accounts: expense ratio for the mutual fund, record keeping, sales load, an upfront sales charge, a contingent deferred sales charge. But a mutual fund account is where you typically find the lowest cost options within a 403B. However, it's also the least commonly used product within the 403B. So there are some studies that suggest that about 75% of educators use annuities in their 403B. Only about 25% use mutual funds in their 403B. I would argue that should be flipped, and I think that more transparency around fees, costs, and even agent compensation would help for that. One of the biggest reasons I mentioned ERISA and school districts not being covered by ERISA, that is a big reason why we see 75% to 25% in favor of annuities. But I think another reason is advisor or agent compensation. Annuities are almost always coming with a commission that is paid to an advisor or an agent. They usually function more like an agent. And they are paid a commission to enroll, for contributions to come into the account. If you're rolling over other money, they're also paid a commission based on that. And so I think that's a significant reason why we see so many annuities, is because agents are chasing commissions. And it's unfortunate that it is teachers who are given the impression that this is in their best interest. Mutual fund accounts, some of the lowest cost providers like Aspire, Fidelity, Vanguard, they don't send commissioned salespeople to push certain products. These are the lowest cost providers, but very few people know about them. And so that's part of the reason why you see the 75-25 is people don't know that there's lower cost options. A lot of people don't even know that there's fees coming out of their account. One thing you can ask is, if your agent sold you an annuity, ask them if they would buy the same annuity themselves. I would guess probably they wouldn't. So how can Flick Financial help? Well, we're not against annuities in general, but I believe they are not normally a good way to save for retirement because of the extra costs. So what can we do? We'll review your 403B with you to determine what you currently have and what your best options are for retirement. one of the big problems in the K through 12 403B is giving the impression that this is your one option. We are very much against that. We want to show you every option that you have available to you. A lot of times I come across people who have set up an account a long time ago and they just have never reviewed it. And a lot of times the investments are out of date. They're using an old product that's expensive, and it's simply a matter of brushing the dust off and looking at it again. Many teachers don't have access to a low-cost provider in their school district. This is fairly common. And so what we've done in the past, we'll provide suggestions and a plan of action to have a lower cost provider added as an option for their whole school district. So it not only benefits them, but it benefits all of their colleagues as well. It just starts with sending us a statement and beginning a conversation, and from there we'd love to help you.